Right guys, welcome back. Today what I'm going to be doing is installing my gas hot water system in the side of the van. So I've gone for a caravan style hot water system, a permanent indoor hot water system, so I can actually certify my van as a caravan in Australia, which gives a couple of benefits: cheaper registration and cheaper insurance. I've gone the correct route. I'm going to do it all legally, and it's only really just going to be used for my hot water, for my tap, and for my shower out the back. So the plan is, it's going to go right here next to my wheel arch box. So I'm going to have to cut all this metal out of the van, and then I have to cut a big hole through the other side of the van, slot it through, and then the faceplate goes on the outside, and that's just going to be held in with screws and caulking. So there's going to be a lot of Sikaflex going on this build, because this is not going to be contoured to the size of the van. The van is something like this, and this is a flat surface. Okay, so I've cut out my section, and what I've done is I've marked out where it's going to go, where I need to cut. And I've marked 100 millimeters from the bottom of the floor here where it's going to sit, and drilled a pilot hole right in the middle. So I know my cutout has to be 320 millimeters, it's 160 millimeters and 160 millimeters, and I'll show you how I'm going to measure that on the other side. So what I've got here is a piece of cardboard I cut out to the exact size that I need to cut out. So it's 32 centimeters by 32 centimeters. So I've also marked the pilot hole point where I drilled from the other side, you can see there. So I slot that in with the drill bit I used, and then I can see now exactly the outline I need to cut, because the van is not actually flat and there's really no square edges to mark off to get you a good square angle. I think this is the best way. Alright, so I've just glued in my heater. You would have seen the way I'm actually making the polyurethane Sikaflex super smooth is, first of all, use a glove, because this stuff sucks when it gets on your fingers. It's just like impossible to get off. Second of all, a lot of people like to use a wet finger. It's good, but polyurethane doesn't react with water. So what you want to use is what you clean it up with, which is terps, which it makes it really nice and smooth, and then it doesn't stick to your finger either. So you'll see me, I was dipping my gloved finger in terps and rubbing it around. You see I had to do a lot of Sikaflex filling down the side here, just where, because the van contours aren't flat like a caravan. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the tape off, but you definitely want to take the tape off before it dries, otherwise you'll never get it off. But then yeah, I'm just going to have to let it dry for a couple of days, not move the van, and then I'm going to screw it from the inside as well. So the next job I'm going to do is install my LPG or propane gas box. So in Australia, you need to have your gas cylinder in a sealed box that vents only to the outside, so either through the floor or through this door. So there's a company in Queensland, DIY RV Solutions, that I've got this from. It's taken a while to get in because everyone's building camper vans at the moment, so they had a big backlog. But essentially, this is called a universal box. They make specific ones for like the common Sprinters, ProMasters and vans, but they don't make a specific one for the Transit. So the contours I'm going to have to make myself. I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it in right here on the same side as my water heater. So essentially the first thing I have to solve is there are some little boxes that were screwed onto the walls here and down here, and these grounding nuts that I'm going to have to relocate, but that shouldn't be a big issue. So I'm going to have to cut this metal panel out and then obviously cut the same size on the other side. So the way I'm going to cut this sheet metal out is with my angle grinder, and I've got a super thin cutting blade. It's for cutting stainless steels. So I'll see what I can get with there. If I can get all these corners, I might have to bring out the multi-tool and just take a little bit of the corner out, but it should give me pretty much the exact shape I need. And then the other side, I'll do what I did with the gas heater and use the jigsaw and put tape around it. So I've cut the gap out now. It did actually throw a heap of little metal filings, so I've just vacuumed those all up. You definitely want to make sure you get all those out before you seal everything off, because it'll just start rusting everything. So I'm just going to leave these dangle there for the time being, and I'm going to hang these up way up here afterwards out of the way. But I'm going to have to now measure where I'm going to be cutting from the outside. So the way I'm going to do that is the same way I did all these other ones, is I'm going to drill a little pilot hole and basically make the measurements on the outside of the van, and then I'll be able to work around from that. So I just need to know exactly where this point is on the other side of the van. So I'll just measure that, put a little mark and mark that up. Okay, so I measured and marked out my cut line. Okay, so what I've just done is I cut the plastic trim off with a multi-vibrating tool. So it gave me a nice, real clean cut around the plastic. Okay, it's out. I'm gonna test fit it. I'll do it live with you. Awesome. So as you can see, I'm gonna have to cut this contour out, and then I'm gonna be able to bring this whole thing a lot closer to the van, make it look a lot nicer. Let's have a look what it looks like from the other side. Okay, it sits flat, and there's not much gap between this. So that's good. I'll just fill that with Sikaflex after, but that's good. So I've made a little contour jig, the way I'm going to mark out where to cut my contours for the box. And all I've done is just got a nice thin piece of scrap wood. You want nice and thin because you're going to get up and close as much as you can. And then all I've done is I've marked the hole at the closest point to the van. So I know here and on the back is where I'm going to be cutting the most out, and I obviously don't want to cut too much. So all I've done is I've just marked a little spot on that point where I'm going to be cutting the most, and then as I go, put my pen in, and you just want the little tiny tip of the pen coming out, so this bit can sit as close to the box as you can. And I'm just going to be able to mark my contours, and I'm going to cut that line out. So the way I'm actually going to cut this line out is with the multi-tool. So this is the vibrating oscillating multi-tool, and you're going to get a much cleaner cut when you're cutting fiberglass, especially gel coat. If you use a jigsaw, you'll end up chipping a lot of the gel coat because it's very brittle. So I'll just take it nice and slow and just cut all around here. I'm going to use a dust mask because fiberglass fibers are going to be going everywhere, and some safety glasses. But I'm just going to spend a lot of time and see if I can get a really nice clean finish. So I've just test fitted it a couple of times. I've had to trim a little bit off excess where I didn't get quite the right contour, but it's come out really well. So I'm really happy with that. It sits flat. So now what I gotta do is install the hinge, and then I'm going to install the locking mechanism, and then I'm going to glue it all in place. I'm probably going to have to reverse the car around so I can pin something up against the tree so I can really just push it in there, and then I'm not going to move the car for a couple of days while that sets. So this is the hinge mechanism. It's a really rigid plastic that I think it will actually help pop the lid open when it's closed. So I'm just going to pre-drill some holes in here and here, and then I got to pre-drill some holes into my fiberglass, and then I'll just screw them down. Probably use some Sikaflex to keep the screws from rattling around, but it should be a fairly simple process. Okay, I'm ready to install the box. I've just parked it next to a tree, so when I've pushed it in, I can kind of wedge something between the tree and the box and really push it hard against the van until it cures. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a thick bead of Sikaflex all around, and that's going to line up with the flange, and then I'm going to put it all on the floor as well, so when it sits flat it glues down to the floor, and then later on I'll come back and do the nice trim around the edge, masking tape it up, make it look all pretty. So I've got my bottle of Terps, and I've got some rags, got my gloves on. I've double taped this so when I go and put the bead down it doesn't go everywhere. Once I got a nice clean line I can peel the tape off. It's really clean, and then I can dip my finger in the Terps and I can make it really nice and smooth and get that perfect edge. It's funny, you do this enough times you actually start to get good at it. I'd be happy with that without the tape. It's pretty smooth. But I'm going to run my finger over it anyway and get it really smooth, and then I'm going to take the tape off. So the last thing to finish this off was I just made a plywood bracket with 3 pieces of 12mm ply glued together. That's glued to the back of the box, holds everything in with this little strap that I've put on there. So that holds the bottle nice and tight. And I made a little plywood base to keep the bottom of the bottle nice and secure. And then the last thing I had to do was drill a 25mm vent hole for the gas to escape if there was a gas leak. So that goes into a hose and then goes underneath the floor and out the bottom of the van. Righto, that is the end of this video. I hope you got some use out of it. If you are building a van similar, let me know. I'd love to see what you're making. If you did get some use out of it, remember to like this video. It'll really help the channel out. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next build.